So yeah, I was just looking at all the cards we have and what we've got going on, and I think what we've got is still a viable plan to move forward. But part of me is going, at what point do we stop the tracking? At what point do we then just leave this an open and not have working sessions? And
Mm,
because I mean, theoretically, we could do this forever. We're starting week 4.
yeah.
And I'm not sure I want to time box it. But I don't know, part of me is thinking that we've got a really solid plan here for getting to the point of displaying a test and potentially displaying a test overlay to show like, hey, try this kind of thing, pointing out some specific part of the test. Um, we don't have anything in yet on what evaluating how they did going through the tests went. We don't have a lot of detail in here yet on different desk types and questions and approaches and that kind of stuff. And we don't have a lot of depth on what data we want to store and that kind of thing. So I'm wondering if just we get through these cards. And from that point, we count it as MVP. I don't want to say complete. I think that's the wrong word. Uh, and then from that point we evaluate as this is a purely open source project. I'll work on it when I have time. If somebody else wants to work on something knowing the project, they can work on it, and we can still keep the board running. I can still throw things on as I have ideas and things like that. And so maybe following this major test helper overlay, we count that as an MVP complete. And so I'm wondering if we put another column in that's post MVP. So anything else we add from this point will go into that post MVP. Does that sound reasonable, Jack? I know you're on here too, so you can comment as well.
Yeah, I have to say I'm a little bit behind because of some of the working sessions I haven't been able to attend. So
Yeah,
I'm not as familiar with like when you get to that helper overlay, what that means for the MVP.
that's okay. I don't think anybody does because I just kind of threw it on there early on. So that has not been discussed. Okay, so what we have, let's discuss that. Let's go through. I mean, that's not something that came up in any session. Nobody's asked. Okay, so we currently have the back end wire up based on the conversation we had last time, which is HTTAT 21. These haven't even been assigned card numbers yet. That's how new those cards are. So that's going to be 23, 24, 25, and 26. So we'll put those on here in a minute. That was based off that conversation. So we're going to put a back end in. We're going to put auth in. We're going to create a registration, a login, that kind of stuff. That's the intent of those 4 cards. So rather than a NoSQL database, we're going to go with a MySQL database. So you guys will learn a little bit about SQL and how to work with tables and that kind of stuff too. Excuse me. So basic banner, that's the homepage top. Clearly where our login, logout kind of stuff is going to go, right? Put a card in for making site responsive. Again, need to put an ID on that one. We talked about hosting on Heroku. Okay, so again, we'll need a card number on that one. So I need to put card numbers on, or if somebody wants to jump in and put card numbers on while we're talking, that's fine too. And then we talked about having a service, building a service. So you guys haven't worked in services in Angular a lot yet. So differentiate between what a service is and what a component is, but have the service that can maintain what those homepage selections are. So on the homepage, we're going to have 2 sets of buttons, which are the grade level and what type of test they want to do, the crawl, walk, run. Somewhere we need to maintain that. So when you start the test, we know what those are. We'll maintain that in a service. So anytime they click on one of those buttons, the service should update. We should have that information that anything else in the application can subscribe to it. Okay. And then test start page. And I think that was my target for almost a mental shift in what we're building. Okay. I do have a card 18 at the top of the backlog, which is researching tests. And researching the tests, well, it kind of reminds me, there was somebody asking a question on Discord. I can jump in there. This is just, what other kind of tests, what other kind of data can we throw in that test JSON that would be of use? And Bisham, I did see your note on Trello, so I'll jump on that here in a minute. We need to make sure we get him an invite and get him on the board. Let's do this actually, since I'm thinking of it. And so Bishama, can you post your email in Discord, and then I can, yeah, I don't have it. And then I can post it in here. Oh, actually, let's start this way. And join as a member. Yeah. So if I copy that link, I can post that into Discord. Sorry, I'm not really thinking about that. My brain's trying to think about cards at the same time. So Bishop, there you can follow that. I probably have to approve once you do it, but it'll give me a notification when we reach that point. All right, so this was kind of that break of major logic pieces, and researching the tests is one of the parts that can happen at any time. I mean, that's something that could be in the next sprint, could be in the backlog kind of stuff. Whoever picks that up, whenever they pick it up, no big deal. So this is displaying where they're at. So when you get to that test start page, we need to connect to that service, grab that data. What grade level are they on? What, is it a crawl, walk, run kind of thing? It's just using that service. Well, that was interesting. It told me he was there, and then Shama, did you get in, or is it still requesting access? Join the board. All right, so it says you're in the board. No, I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. I'm getting distracted by shiny things this morning. And then simple things like a test uses quite often will have a timer. So you're on that start page. You click that start button, and this timer runs all the way through, which is going to be interesting because we're going to be switching pages of these for these tests, and we need to maintain that timer actively and counting correctly the whole way through, which we might take advantage of the fact that we have a service that will run and doesn't shut down to track when it started the use of that timer. But the timer also has to have a way that we can disable it too, that we can actually just completely turn it off and have it not show at all. Then we have this whole concept of helper overlay, and these two kind of go together. I should put that down here. There's not really an order on that, but these two are probably the two most complex that we're going to do. Because at some point we want to be able to highlight, gray out everything else, some section on the screen. And we need to know where it is. I mean, physically, where it is on the screen, what's its top left, bottom right. And I have this odd thought of using an attribute. There are ways to tie into component attributes and build something that if we throw that attribute on, that it automatically, the service will go find out what the top left, bottom right is for that component, and you'll do the attribute equals and give it some name that we then can have it keyed in a way that when we want to know on a test page what that component is, we grab that key, we go to the service, we say, where is this? It says, here's where it is. And now we can do all of our things from there. I know that's kind of vague, but it's probably one of the most complicated things we'll do with this application. Okay. I'm not 100% sure how all of that's going to work. But that would be a big target for me for MVP. We get that one done, and I'm going to be really happy, even if we don't implement it. The fact that we can implement it is the key to me in moving this project forward long term. Okay. We need to be able to display questions. We need to be able to determine if they answered it right or wrong. So verifying what they checked against. Is it something that we show the answer right away or not? I don't know. Okay. We almost need a way to, if I remember right, we need a way to identify which one are the hard questions versus the easy. That I don't know that we've even talked about in our cards. But we need to look at the data and see if we have that accounted for. So might need a card for that. And then test is clearly going to have navigation, moving to the next, flagging questions, things like that. But we get all that done, in my mind, that's MVP. That's the minimum. It's not functional at that point, but it's really heading that way. And probably my thinking there is we take a break. We stop this, we count MVP as done. We're not doing sessions. If somebody wanted to work on something, they can work on something. Cards are still going to be created in this post MVP, and maybe I put a couple cards in here for like, this is, phase 1 post MVP or something like that, where, we take a break for a month and I'll start up again. I'll put the same post out to Twitter going, hey, I'm going to fire this thing off again. I'll send you guys an email saying, hey, I'm going to start this thing up again. If you want to join in, let me know. And we'll start it all over. I'll build the whole list of dates and times and when things are and who's on it and over again. So if you want to join in again, you can. If you've learned enough of Angular at the moment, or work's getting in the way, whatever, life's getting in the way, it's fine not to join back in. I'm almost thinking that I'm going to run, not necessarily just for this, but just continuously kind of run a series of these kind of workshops. Taking a 2-month break in between and just go for a couple of months, not really set a time frame on it, but set a challenge to get to a certain point with the application. Those of you that just came on board, we've been kind of talking through where we're going to get to MVP, and no application is truly ever done, and I don't really want this to drag out and be a multi-year project. We're just starting week 4, so I thought this might be a good time to kind of chat through that. So if you missed stuff, this is recorded, so you can go back to the YouTube and re-listen through that first 15 minutes, 13 minutes, whichever. So the thought process is at this point that we're going to complete what we're calling MVP. All the cards that are on now, minus I think one, will be, I think we got one more we need to add in relation to determining if it's a hard question or not, and somehow having a timer or something on there that says, hey, this is a hard question, you should probably skip forward. I don't know if we have to have that implemented or not, though. I mean, I think that might be a bit too much. Maybe we leave that out. There are a couple cards on here that aren't numbered, that need numbered, so I'll probably do that here real soon. But how far do we want to go with this? How much do we want to push to getting this application there? As we round out this MVP, as we start the next iteration of open source, I probably will continue with this one. And I'm going to start fresh. We're going to go to ground zero. I'm going to send an email to all you guys. I'm going to put a post out like I did on Twitter a month ago and say, hey, I'm starting this thing up. Who would like to join me? If you want to join, fine. If you don't want to join that second round, that's fine too. This is, it's open source. I'm not, as I said, I think early on in this one, I'm not making any hard requirements on this. My assumption is that everybody's going to watch at least the working session videos if you're not able to attend. That was my only ask. And hopefully you can learn from that. Katie, yes.
Just two things that came up as you were talking.
Uh-huh.
You were talking about the hard question, want to skip forward. The other thing that I might suggest is, and this is obviously very detailed, but my brain goes there, that if maybe it's even like a medium or an easy question, but they're taking too long. So not necessarily based on the question, but how much time they're spending
Mhm.
in that one spot, that maybe there's also a prompt to move them forward.
I guess exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay. Because I was
Mhm.
thinking that maybe it was only based on difficulty, but also just thinking like, hey, you've been here a little while, like
I,
maybe you should move forward. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's well, and that might be one to add to our, you're right. It might be one to add to our don't let me forget, we'll add that to our list of things, our recommendations, right? Our general rules. And speaking of that, that's the if we get that onto the list of rules, we don't have anything in here for displaying that general list of rules on the main page.
Okay.
Right. So we need a card for that on the main page, adding in your rule to the ones that we already have existing. Don't spend too long on any one question. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had a second question?
My
Don't.
second one was thinking about, and I'm not in the category of like researching tests, but for consideration of like where that material is coming from. And because I know that there are people who like their job is to write test questions.
Mhm.
And so making sure that whatever material we use is open or available for that type of
Yeah.
thing, and that we're not like
My
any
intent was
copyright.
more along the lines to the vast majority of our questions will be as simple as possible. When I talk researching tests, it's not to get questions. I'm talking research tests to find out how some of the specific tests actually work. So, my son's STAR test that he takes, does it have the capacity of flagging questions and coming back to them? Can he skip a question? I don't know these things. Does he get penalized for not answering a question? Or is it just he's graded on the number he gets done? If he's only graded on the number he gets done, there's no issue with taking as long as you want on any particular question. So the rules change. That's the kind of research I was thinking. When I'm thinking easy, hard questions, let's say we're looking at high school level. So 1+1's an easy question that you shouldn't spend a lot of time on. But if we throw in a calculus question, most high schoolers haven't gotten there yet. That's probably going to count as a hard question. I mean, even just throw something in there like, what's the sine of 1.23? Off the top of my head, I'm not going to be able to guess what the sine of 1.23 is. I have, it's been a long time since I've done anything like that. In my mind, that counts potentially as a hard question. No, the questions can be insanely simple in structure. No, I don't want to take questions from any particular test. That is not something I want to do. Okay. Good questions. Let's get that card on here. So what was the card? That was actually, let's do this before we do that. Let's 22 is our last big one, right? Yeah. So this will be, make sure I don't have anything closed. It's over 22. We have two 22s. We have 24, 23, 24. Okay, so the next one should be 25, and this one should be 25, because we don't want to repeat. Somehow we repeated, that's okay. All right. I had been thinking a long time ago, I need a card just to track what the top number is. Let's do that while we're thinking of it. Top card. Number. And right now it's 25. So we're going to go in and this will be like a don't delete this ever kind of card. We don't need to label it, I don't think. Okay, so actually maybe that's it. Maybe we edit labels on this card and we create one for bright red. I don't do not really create. There we go. So we get that red on it. There we go. Highlight tells us don't delete. Okay, so then that's 25. Then we need to number these real quick.
I can work on that if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay.
So Yeah, so Katie's gonna move forward on that, and we need to create the new card, which was, I'll leave the number off this one. You can catch this one too if you want, Katie. Which was, what was it? Oh, handling. Oh no, display. Yes. So these are actually the test rules. You get displayed on the main page. And then one of the things that I want to account for here is when we're in mobile. These should be the primary things that we do have a card for responsive design, so I'm not going to worry about that beyond that. So that'll need need a number as well, and then date our final last number. So that'll be a 31. Yeah. Thank you, Katie. That helps. Oh, we missed. Okay. I see you're ahead of me there. All right. So the hosting Heroku is 32, and this one's going to be third. Is there a 31? Did you leave 31 free?
31, because you said you were going to make it 31.
I
Yeah.
will make it. I will make it 31. All right. All right. So good. Awesome. Thank you. And then I think that can go really high. In fact, that can almost come into the sprint because it's just displaying the list of recommendations. I have to get the list. I'll have to add that to the card at some point, but I'll take care of that later. Oh, and pointing. This should act like I said, that should be really easy. We can stash that somewhere. So let's make that a 2-point card. There we go. All right. So 22 minutes in. Any questions up to this point? We're talking through where we're headed. Okay, no questions at this point. So
Okay, I have one real quick.
sure.
There are two A17s, the helper overlay. Are those the same?
Oh, there shouldn't have been 217. So one of these needs to step up in number. No, they're not the same. We need a helper overlay service.
We can just make 133.
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Slow down. Yeah, this is for creating the service and trapping the data. And then this one is for using that helper overlay in some way, being able to show that it works. I think it is going to be the harder one, no doubt in my mind. Yeah, that's going to be a weird CSS thing.
Actually, it looks like we have 3 17s.
3 17s?
Yeah, there's one in the next sprint for test start page.
You're right. All right, so let's see. I'll update. Let's do this. So test start page will then become 33. That's our next available number, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then the second 17 here will become 34. All right.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. It's nicer in Jira boards where it actually does this automatically for you. You should create a new card and gives you a number. Yeah, that's why this is going to be really helpful for us as we move forward. Now we know what the top number is, and we can make sure we go past that correctly. All right, so yeah, this next one probably is going to be where you guys are going to be the most help, which is building a node backend, adding authentication to that, wiring up that front end to back end auth, so registration, log in, log out, And then the API, my initial intent is we'll just have a JSON object that can be returned. And that JSON object will be our test file initially. And once we move that data into the database, then we can build that JSON object in Node and bring it in. But I don't have intent to do that in these cards yet. Okay. So initial backend node, adding in the auth, adding in the API input, adding in the API tests, utilizing that with Angular. Megan, did you have a question or did you just leave the mic on? Oh, she just left the mic on. Okay. It's okay. Absolutely okay. All right. So, and this is clearly not as strong an area for me as it probably is for you guys, right? You guys have been doing a lot of Node kind of stuff recently. Oh, we got lots of chat stuff that I haven't been paying attention to. I'm gonna do a quick check on that. All right, so nothing exciting there. Megan did post the attendance. Has everybody seen the attendance form? Okay, if you haven't, pop your hand up and I'll make sure I get that recopied, repasted in there. Okay, it was posted relatively recently, and I don't know who came on and didn't. If it's not in the chat attendance link, let me know. Okay, so let's take a look at some code. And I've got this open. And let's increase its font size. And I need the terminal at the moment. Okay. So let's jump in here. We've been working in front end for a while, so I guess we now need back end, right? Yeah, square one. And like front end, we probably need to do an npm init, but let's just go out and do a quick peek at who's got jot token auth in Node and see if we can find some quick article. I didn't post an article in there, which means I didn't find one right away. There were like half a dozen and none of them were quite right. So we want Node jot token auth. Yeah, we should be able to find most there. So this looked like the first one I looked at apparently somewhere along the way. And let's see what we have real quick. Okay. Authentication authorization, jot tokens. Has everybody here worked with jot tokens? Okay, good. At least one head was bobbing up and down, and I can't see the rest of it. All right. Working node, JavaScript node there, and this is Mongo, but we're going to switch out from Mongo later. Easy enough to pull that out as we build this. Okay. Make directory npm init. So let's do an npm init, which I thought we'd have to do. And man, that's the Brave window. I want the code window, that one. There we go. So I'm going to adjust things here slightly so that I'm stopped doing this. Where did the editor go? I'm playing a hide and seek game here. There we go. We don't need that. So backend, in terminal. Yes, indeed. It's npm init, right? Yo. Oh, not in terminal anymore. There. And blah 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 blah. Package name. Backend is fine. I could care less what we name it, what we version it, what we description it. Index.js is our entry point, test command, Git repository, keywords, author, license. Sure, that looks good. All right, so we have now a. Oh, why did that put that up there? Oh no, they put it right here. Package JSON. Good, just what we need, right? Oh, nothing exciting, but what we need. All right, so he's doing this middleware auth stuff, which I'm not sure what he's doing there, but it doesn't sound like it's going to hurt anything, right? So he's creating a config folder, model folder, middleware folder, config folder. Okay. interesting way of doing it, but we'll take it, see what happens. We can always take it apart, put it back together later, right? And then he's touching, he's just creating empty files. And the app and the index files, all right. And sure, why not? Okay, I don't know why I keep clicking over there when I click over there. So we should have something like this. Not quite as complicated. We don't have a package lock because we haven't done anything there yet. We don't even have a README in this folder yet. And that's fine too. Okay. These should be just empty files, and that's fine. Let's see what he's doing next. Install dependencies. Okay, so here's where we have to make some choices because we're not going to be putting in Mongo. Okay, which means we probably don't need Mongoose, but we do need Express JSON Web Token. We need the dot environment. We probably need the bcrypt, right? And I remember what the -d command does. Probably need nodemon, but we need all this but the Mongoose. So let's do it this way: npm install. So
Bob, I think that the D it makes it a development dependency.
Could be. All right, well, let's do a quick double check. I just want to make sure. You guys know me by now. I check everything. I'm annoying that I check everything. It annoys me that I check everything. Where are our flags? That is like everything I don't want about this. npm CLI commands install -p-d say it's the same as save dev. Okay, you're right. I like that. Okay, so I can be talked into having that local in the save.
Well, I think that the new node, you don't have to use nodemon. There's some sort of command where you can watch it without using nodemon, but I haven't done that yet.
Okay, well then track down what that command is so we can try
Okay, I will do that. Yeah, it's like a built-in node thing now.
All right, I'm not going to do anything. Let me check my node version. I'm on 18.12, 18.12.1. Just so you can verify that it may or may not work there. All right, so he's got a database.js file, which all of this is going to get thrown out the window, so we're not going to worry about that. In our app.js, what's he got? Environment config database. Okay, so we're going to have to adjust a little bit for that because we don't want. Interesting that he's bringing in the .config database, which exports the connection to the database. Oh, he didn't put any logic in. All right. Wow. So he's going to require app that way. So he's bringing in the app that way. Okay, so let's just bring this in right now this way. Just that part. This goes into app. We might have to find somebody else's to play with this. All right, that's a start. Would be my preferred way, but okay. Of course, I'm not sure what my preferred way is. I haven't spent as much time in here as you guys. So we need something to listen and spin up a server, which is where the nodemon stuff comes in, right? So for right now, we're bringing in that other side. We're setting an API point that's based off the process environment port. And there's no process environment. Nice nodes, I have to say. Okay, so There we go. Notice our file needs some environment variables. Create a new .env file if you hadn't, and add your variables before starting the application. All right, so .env, and we don't need the Mongo URI yet, so let's put that in our .env. Yeah. So theoretically, if Katie's found our command, we can spin this up, right? To replace NodeMon. What'd you find, Katie?
So the flag, I put in the comments, but it's the watch flag. So,
Okay.
but I feel like it's just something that we run in the command line.
Okay. Well, actually what it becomes is we could do this. And let's see what we have. The watch flag, right? Okay, let's pull this up, take a look at it. Watch instead of
You don't have to
node.
watch it.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
there's
not
just
gonna watch
stuff at the
video.
bottom there. Yeah, there you
it
go.
is. Node -- watch the server. Okay. That's easy. And then we can come in here and that should go right there. Okay. Which does make it a command line. You can run the npm, you can run the node, either one is going to work. Okay, but npm run dev, I don't have to remember index.js or any of that kind of stuff, right? We have an index.js, so we should be able to spin something up. Npm run dev should do something. Server running on port undefined, so something didn't work in the port, which is okay. So let's go take a look at what we have here. So I brought in port or API port, and API port should have come out of the process. Environment file, and for some reason it did not pick it up from the .env file. There's an example of the object. Interesting. But he's importing environment from process. Interesting. That's we're not importing environment, so I don't know where, but process should have picked that up. So I don't know why that didn't work. I don't know. Any thoughts?
I think you might need to require .env.
Require. Oh, import it? Maybe.
Generally, like we have like require.
Yeah, well, requires a form.
.env,
Requires a form of import. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on. Federico saying something about .env config. And see, okay. Let's see. So what am I missing here then? How did we there? Oh, that was built into the app, some at the app level in his application, which is something we didn't copy. Which gives us access to 4001. Look at that. Nice job, guys. All right. I haven't built one of these in a while. Interesting splitting this app and index. I always kind of threw those two together, but thoughts on that? Anybody? No thoughts on it. Okay. Not going to worry about that then. All right, but we have an app running. Okay, and I do have Postman here somewhere. So this should be localhost 4001. Of course, we don't have anything to respond to yet, right? I'm going to close out the chat for a minute while Postman spins up on my machine. I thought Postman had a dark mode. Maybe they haven't put that in yet. I don't know. Really bright screens bother me. Themes. Dark. There we go. It has a dark mode. It just forgot my dark mode. All right, so we're going to throw this over here, up here, so I can get to it. We don't need it quite yet. Let's come back over here real quick. And I noticed he had something in user. Don't want to worry about that yet. Or he's building a schema. We're not there yet. But in the app, he requires the user module, and he's doing posts for login and register, which we're going to need those eventually. So let's copy that logic. And that goes into app. Yeah, usually all in one. Not too adverse to separation. We'll leave it separated for the moment. Okay. So our login logic, our registration logic, but you know, we could build a quick response on something, right? So what if we say, what if I want to block the root level and have a /API route in it, right? So what if we did something like, and request response. We should be able to do. I haven't done one of these in a long time. So I just want to return a message, right? Thoughts? Been a long time for me.
I don't mean to speak up a lot, but
Please.
the stuff that we've done, we generally use like router, an express router, and then it's like router.get. But there could be another way.
Okay. Yeah, I see the response send.
I'm referring to one of my old projects real quick.
Yeah. I'm going to do this with a status too. Because they shouldn't be, this should be something where they're not allowed to go to the root, right? Hang on, what are our, okay. See the auth status is 401 auth unauthorized. That's easy enough. Wow, Megan's sending us stuff we shouldn't post online. All right. So we've got an unauthorized on the root of it. So let's try this out. And let's see, I don't want to do my public APIs. Let's build a new one. And that's not where I want to be. Yeah, I want a new collection. And I want to rename my collection. This that'll work there. And then in the collection, I'm going to add a request. Don't care about you, don't care about you. And this request is going to be, and it's going to be a get, and it's going to be localhost 4001, right? If we send on that one, we get 401 unauthorized. Perfect. It works. Okay. So these should then become /API. And if there's a better way to do this with other patterns, that's fine. We can always rework it. I mean, I'm just trying to see, can we get some basic something going on? Okay. This article that we were looking at doesn't go a whole lot further. This is the registration where he's getting information out of the request body. So when we send a registration request, we should be sending some, I wanted to go to the beginning of the line, and that was not the key I wanted to hit. Sorry. I wanted to go to, there we go. Beginning of, there we go. And this is going to create something in the database, and it's going to create a token and attach it to the user. And then it returns that user object with the token. Okay. So I don't know that I want to go quite that level yet. I think I want to leave these kind of empty and just see, can we request and get the token, right? I don't know, maybe we do. Maybe we do. Let's take a step back. We've got something working. We've got 15 minutes left. Let's do a little bit more research into into one other difference, because I did want to use MySQL with this to use a SQL database rather than a Mongo database. So let's go take a look at the Node Express .token auth examples with MySQL, so we can start wrapping the database in and see what the differences are. And we can rework. We're not set on any particular pattern yet. And if I remember, this article was reasonable. They did talk about what the token base is and how we add them as headers, and we're not there yet. There's a video. So he's got APIs, just like we talked about. So auth, sign up, auth, sign in. He's got a series of tests for all users, mods, admins. Getting contact. Ooh, look at that. All right. So with authentication authorization, blah, 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 project structure. So he's got a config, he's got middleware, he's got models. He's actually using routes, which I like that better. So we may steal that part of it. Yeah. And there's his root server.js. So we might switch the server. I don't know that we need to rework it quite that far, right? So far I haven't seen anything radically different. He's done an npm init. We did an install of Express, SQLize, MySQL 2 cores, and JSON Web Token bcrypt, which we already have Express, JSON Web Token bcrypt. So we probably need, I don't know why we need SQLize. We'll find out. We can always take it out later if we need, right? So let's stop our server. And npm install. Oh, not what I wanted. Apparently I copied the wrong thing. Let's go back over here and copy again. There we go. Try that again. Hey, that looks better. All right, get those installed. Package JSON looks like this. Yes, or he's slightly different. He's tying into server.js. We're using index.js. Okay. This is a project I did from a tutorial, uses job for authorization. Awesome. All right, we'll pull that up in a second. So his Express server probably looks a little different from ours. So let's pull this over. Whoa, there we go. There. And can I get that just a little bit wider? That's where we need to be in width. Let's pull this over and see if we can see the two next to each other. Perfect. All right, so let's, yeah, the app.js I think is an okay idea. I don't know that that's exactly the right idea. Yeah, he's using the app use, app gets. Yeah. Okay. Although I'd like how we did it with the ports. I like that part of it. Okay, so a lot of what we did here as you guys said, and I agree with you. I think that this can go in the trash. And then over here, instead of bringing in app as a separate piece, bring that in that way. And theoretically, nothing here should work significantly differently at the moment. But let's compare left and right. Okay, Katie, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I would just recommend moving your const server and the port stuff up to the top. Is that right? Or above the app?
I don't know that the port has to move up, but yeah, I think just from a visualization perspective, it makes sense to move them up. I don't know how high up I need to move those. Let's see. Put those, oops, right there for now. I'm going to move that all the way up. Man, sorry, I keep hitting that Control V. I apologize for jumping in around. All right, so these are our imports. This is where we start to build things. This is where we set up our port on our server. This is where we set up app and then start using app with Express.json. Okay. So what's he done? We have Express coming in, and let's fix all the things, little things that bug Bob. Like single quotes instead of double quotes. Instead, let's do double quotes and replace it with single quote. There we go. This is JavaScript. You should use single quotes, not double quotes. It's not HTML, right? Of course, now we have this weird logic, which is okay. He's bringing in Express. He is bringing in cores, which I agree with that. The cores always is a nightmare. So that's one of those things you fight with. So let's bring that in. And we have App Express. Somewhere we have App Express. Cores options, which is going to be interesting because we have to do that after we do our port stuff, which that's okay because it's already done here. So we'll drop that in. And our port is going to have to change on us a bit. So this is where we can then get a little smart and use some more modern tooling. Oops, dollars. Port. Okay, so now we have the cores options, and the port will be dynamic depending on what we bring in for the dot environment, right? And then we have to use the app use cores options. Not sure what options we gave cores, but we have a little more wiggle room on it now, right? And there we go. I think we can do those two in conjunction. Yep, because we got Express.json right there. He's doing URL encoded. Okay. That makes sense. And then he does a simple get route with a message, which we have a get route with a simple message. And then he's setting up his port and his app listen. We did the port up above, and that's fine. We listen to the port, and server's running a port. So there he's exactly the same. So we made the changes. We brought the things together. We added a few other minor changes from what he had. So we should be able to rerun dev. What are you saying? What? I don't know what that was. Why it was wiggling on me. That's new. Oh, and we broke it. What did we break? Create server app. Oh, because server is way up above app, but it needs to be below it, right? And where did he put the create server? He didn't do a create server. There. Okay, so we're up and running on 4,000. Let's bring up here and do another send and see if we still get unauthorized. So yes, our report is working. Okay. And do a quick save on that. There we go. So we don't lose that. Federico, I don't know. This is not my key area. I would have to actually look that up to find out what the variance is between the HTTP create server app and the server. Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure. Okay. We are going to need HTTPS eventually, but we're going to worry about that later. We're not going to worry about that now. Okay. Well, here, let me do this since I'm on this article. Let's copy this and get this into the chat. There we go. So we're looking at the same article, and I mean, he may talk about why we do it that way in there. I'm not going to worry about it at the moment. So MySQL database and SQLization. In the app folder, create a config folder, configuration with dbconfig.js. And yeah, really complicated. That's okay. So this is db.config.js. All right, so I think just in the database file is probably fine. Why did that not paste? There we go. All right, so interesting username and password, but for our purposes, we're just getting things wired up, right? So we have connection pools, min max kind of thing. We're the only ones currently connecting to it. Yeah. And then our SQLized model. So this is going to go under user and model. All right. So I'm going to take a little bit of the simpler naming rather than his really complicated naming. So his users and then roles. So let's get in the users. And he's defining users with a username, email, and password. Makes sense. All right. And then we need to create a roles.js. I haven't worked with SQLized, so we're going to figure that out. New file. Oh, come on. Go. I'm going to drop role in and ID and name. All right, easy enough. Yeah. Create a new user. SQLized models represent users and roles. After initializing SQLized, I'll need to write CRUD. Okay, so SQLized supports creating, finding, getting. That's pretty cool. I like not having to write the CRUD. Okay, initialize SQLized. So in app model index.js. So we need an index.js that will configure the initialize. Wow, that's impressive. We're gonna have to look at that. Oh, you little. There we go. So let's take a look at what we're doing here, because this is really kind of cool, I think. It's doing a lot of things. All right, so we're requiring config db config. This is going to be config database. And before I go too far, I want to check a couple of things. Yeah, he's using double quotes all through his code, which clearly is going to bother Bob. Right? Let's fix all those. Database, users, roles. There we go. Don't need that at the moment. All right, so let's see what's going on in here, right? So he's bringing in, we need to change this because we bring it from a different place. We're requiring SQLized, get it. We're building a SQLized object using the config database user and password that come out of that file. And then we're building this host thing So all this config stuff is coming out of that file that we built over here, the database one, with the really fancy password and stuff. Then we're setting up a database object that we're attaching SQLize to. That's a weird. Oh, okay. So it's the SQLize itself, the core SQLize code, and our SQLize object that we're creating. The upper lowercase is important there. User. Okay, so here it's model user. And role. I kind of like typing that file. We might go back and fix that. Need to adjust folder file names for model files within some are plural, some are singular. Oh, you're right. Model. Catch. Did I do anything up there? Config is right. Database is right. Yep. Roles. Oh, so this should probably be okay. Yeah, we'll do that roles. All right. So DB role belongs to many, DB user belongs to many, DB roles, user admin moderator. And then we got a thing. It exports DB. Okay, that's kind of cool. We'll see how complicated it is to use, but that's kind of cool. And I'm glad Katie's paying attention to my spelling. I'm really bad at that. This is why I like TypeScript. TypeScript would have told us this. But, you know. All right, so what have we got going on here? So then he's now going back to his server.js, which is our index.js. All right, so let's go back to our index.js. So primary index. And he's got the app express app, all our app uses. Got it. And he's adding require DB. And he's setting up role. All right. And he's doing that after the app users, which is fine. I'm weird putting the requires in the middle, but all right. And he's doing a DB sync to drop and resync the database. Interesting. All right. New one on me, but all right, I'm not gonna worry about it. I haven't worked with SQLize, so we're gonna. So he does an initial function initial that can set up roles for user moderator admin. I'm thinking we don't need it quite that complex, but I don't think we need. I really don't think we need these two, but we'll leave them in for now. Failed running index. Module not found. What? All right, we got an error. Oh, man, people really like their double quotes, don't they? Can't find module app module. Oh, because we're not in app, we're already in that level. All right. Well, it did something different. We got different error. It's always fun when you get different error, right? Connection refused. Oh, those are good. Deprecation warning. A Boolean was passed to options operators aliases. This is a no op with v5 and should be removed. This is part of SQLize. Okay, so we're using something old on SQLize. So it's throwing a SQLize error. Connection refused. Through the MySQL connection manager. That's kind of cool. following it all the way down, and yeah, it doesn't really give us 100% why, but a Boolean value is passed to options.operators, aliases. So if we copy that, show where the warning was created. So maybe. All right, so what are we doing here? I don't think there's anything in here that's going to cause the problem. I think it's probably in this. I don't think it's in database because there's no Boolean in there. If we look at the model index, it shouldn't be in there. Database config, we haven't done anything at all. We have that in the roles. Okay, so up here, database user password, config host, expire and idle. So this is all coming from config, which is some configuration of the databases. I don't see anything in there. It's a Boolean. Anybody see a Boolean?
It was in the first place. It has force true. Where you were before you started switching files. Sorry.
Here?
Yeah, line 21.
Oh. So then if that's something that's deprecated out, that's I was going to look at the error message and see if it gave us anything on that deprecation warning. A Boolean was passed, yep. Which immediately Stack Overflow. Let's open this up so we can actually read. Not an error, just a warning. Yeah, right. Remove the warning, replace the Boolean value by quote 1 or quote 0 for true or false, respectively. Go to app models index, change operator aliases. So somewhere in there where we're doing the new sequelize in the database. Where is the new sequelize? Here it is, new sequelize. So they're saying to add operator alias to 0. Oh, look at that. Good catch. And connection refused. Oh, but we had a different error. Sequelize error, connection refused. Connection manager. Wow, that's significantly less this time than we had. I'm beginning to think I don't like sequelize. The idea sounds great, but maybe what we need to do is, instead of doing this, working with this guy's sequelize, who knows when this was written and how far through it are we? We're not very far through it yet. Good. 2021, that's 2 years, well, yeah, 2 years old, year and a half old. But let's look up sequelize and see what they say as far as like startup, right? Sequelize, getting started, sequelize v6. We're probably using the latest as opposed to. All right, I'm gonna just dump the terminal for now. And what do we have in dependencies? We have sequelize version 6.29. All right, let's get rid of the dark mode for the moment, because sometimes it drops things when you do that. So we've got sequelize, Postgres, MySQL is using MySQL 2, which we do have. Fine, connecting to a database. So sequelize, require sequelize, sequelize, new sequelize. Option 1, passing connection URI. Option 2, passing parameters. Option 3, passing parameters separately, database username, password, which I think is what we're doing. And the dialect would be MySQL. So let's take a look at what we're doing here, and I'm going to kind of step things back a little bit. This is okay, I think. And let's get down to this file. Oh, we're 10 minutes over, guys. All right, let's take a quick peek at this. Okay, so this is similar to this pattern where we're sending in the database, the username, the password. Host is localhost, which is configured over here. And then we have dialect, and he's doing config.dialect, which is MySQL, so that's right. And nothing else. So all this pool stuff and operator alias stuff doesn't exist in this version. So we can try to test the connection. So if we strip down for now, I wonder if we can just comment those out. That then looks like that up there for the option 3, and do a simple SQLize authenticate in and we'll comment some things out in our index.js. I eventually do want to change that to server, but we can drop this, I think, for the moment. The DB contains our SQLize, so we want to await db.SQLize authenticate. Because it should have then set up SQLize here, attached it. I don't care about the roles and that kind of stuff yet, but then should set up this await. Got it. That should console log and tell us whether it worked or not, which it's probably going to fail, but who knows, right? Let's open our terminal and dev and see how badly we fail. All right, so node experimental warning watches. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Show the warning. I don't care about the warning. Oh, I didn't like the await. Okay, we can fix that. That's easy enough, right? So what we do is we create a all that into there. And this needs to be an async function to allow the await. And then we init. It should run it. And unable to connect to the database. Connection refused. Now, what gets me, what I don't know is where's the database? All right. Nowhere in either of these sets of documentation has it talked about, hey, let's set up a MySQL database somewhere that's accessible on localhost. Because we have this local host with the user and the test DB and all this, but I've set up MySQL before. This is not how MySQL gets set up. So odds are MySQL doesn't even exist. It's looking at port 3306 on localhost, and we haven't set anything up to run there, which is probably why we're failing. Okay. So having said all that, we tried it. We got some stuff going on. Got some test code. Okay. And this is a start. Yes, localhost is a host for testing. We could set it up on a PostgreSQL. Yeah, we have to have a database set up, and given the fact that it's 11:15, we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes. I'm not going to take the time to set up a test right now. Guess where we're going to start? On the next session on Tuesday, most likely, right? Where do we go for the next phase? All right, this is how things go. Okay. Yeah, Bob's setting up a backend that doesn't work even remotely like we want. Okay. We can set up some things that we can start to tie into the app, though. You know, we have this app post. I can use a local read and read a JSON file. So this JSON file that we have in the front end in the assets, we can bring that, copy that file, paste it over there, read that file in, and use that as a response to then bring that from this server rather than from the assets folder. So it actually would be from the node backend as opposed to, of course, we'd have to wire a few things up to make all that work. But, you know, we've got to start here. I knew it wasn't going to be right first time. There's like 600 different ways to do this stuff. Okay, so yeah, at some point we got to go take a look at how do we set up MySQL. Okay. And you'll find MySQL is actually fairly easy to work with. All right. And we also know it's going to be 3306 because that's the port we were failing at. It was my guess that was going on, but I saw that drop in resync and I was thinking, okay, maybe it's setting up the database over and over again. It's not doing anything. Okay. So let's get this since I want to look into the SQLs. I like that. There's a lot of pre-built stuff in here for us. So I'm going to add some things on here. Oh, why am I not getting an enter? Well, we'll just put it in there that way. Hit the enter key. The article we're working on at the moment is this guy's, which actually really wasn't too bad from what I saw. And what else we had to getting started? Got that. I got that. We fixed the deprecation warning. Yeah. So yeah, might have helped somewhere in somebody's notes if it had said, hey, by the way, you actually have to have a database, right? We're not setting up a database for you. Yeah. Ooh, I like paranoid. That sounds like fun, doesn't it? All right, so I got notes on the card. Let's save notes on the card so they're saved to continue work. And we did start on that, so I'm going to move that over. Okay, we haven't really started off, but you know, we've got to, it looks like we've got to bring database in pretty soon, right? And I got code here, so let's see, let's pull GitHub desktop and put it on the right project. And here's all the cool stuff we started doing. And this is commit domain. Oh, commit domain. No, I don't want to commit domain. Crap. Excuse language. Undo commit. This is why I like visual, right? We need new branch. And our card is 26. Come on. New branch. Feature. Oh, 6. Load. Backend. Create branch. Bring my changes. Switch branch. Now we commit it. Then we push it. Now we got it up on a branch. Okay. If somebody wanted to play and move forward, you have time, you're bored, you think Bob's doing it a dumb way, feel free to tear it apart. Okay. Not adverse to taking help. Okay. Yeah, not wrapped in an async function. Cool. Yeah. Any questions, comments, or concerns? We went a little long today. All right. I am gonna, oh, Jack is popping in.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Welcome. Getting to see me mess up what you guys already know how to do, right? That's okay. It's, you know, anybody here worked with SQLize before? All right. So we're all learning something. Okay. So let me stop the record.